Welcome to Pet Allies Adoption Minute, sponsored by Sholo TV. I'm standing in for Jill Tingle, and Zippy here is standing in for Odie today. And my guest is Jennifer Rinaldi. She's on our board. Thank you for being on the board. We really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And she's going to talk about a kind of a sad topic, but she's going to tell us her experience with her friend who was unable to care for her pets any longer.
Yes, we had a friend in our club. She raised Pomeranians for years and also had lots of mixed breed dogs. Was absolutely fine. Everybody thought she was fine, but ended up having dementia. This had been going on for a long time. There were no plans or provisions made for her animals. She had 6 at the time. She ended up going off of the road into a ditch. Nobody found her for 3 days. The animals were alone for 3 days. When they finally found her, she ended up in the hospital and could never come home. We were all tasked, because we know Pet Allies was so overtaxed at the time, we were tasked with having to rehome those dogs, figure out where the family was. We had no information about her family at all. We had to call the authorities to actually get into her house, and it was tragic. Of those animals, 2 of them ended up having to be put down. That wouldn't have to have been if they had been provided for. If at least a neighbor or somebody else had known that something had happened. We even went to the neighbors and asked if they had had any information about this woman, and they didn't. So this is why I ended up writing an article for Outdoor Magazine, and they published it on behalf of Pet Allies, and it's called Mom and Dad Are Never Coming Home, Providing for Your Fur Babies If the Unimaginable Happens. And what it is there's a pet care emergency authorization form which can be filled out, and you can have multiple forms filled out with different people. For us, after this happened, my husband and I went to our neighbors who know our dog and cats, have been into our house and understand how to take care of our animals, and we had them fill out the form. You can also do your estate planning, and I highly recommend you do that. Leave money for your pets so that you know that if a neighbor can't take them, provisions have been made, that at least somebody can maybe foster them for a while. Our neighbors have agreed to do that. If something were to happen to my husband or myself, they would foster our animals till such time that they could find homes instead of dumping them at the shelter. The animal will be much more comfortable in our home, and provisions were made in our will so that if something happened to us, our house would stay as is until our animals were cared for. And it's something that I cannot stress to you enough. It's very unfair for animals like him, and why don't you tell us about his story?
So Zippy's is very similar to your story. Zippy's person went down to Phoenix to the hospital, left Zippy with a neighbor, and expected to come back from the hospital, but was told she was not going to be able to return home. So the neighbor unexpectedly was thinking she was going to keep Zippy for a couple days, and ended up over a month before she couldn't find a home for him. He'd been somewhat neglected, probably because the owner was unwell, and so he had a lot of medical conditions that had to be treated. So we did take him into the shelter. The neighbor contacted us. We did take him into the shelter, and we neutered him. We treated several different things, groomed him. I think I'm calling this the javelina cut that we gave him.
I love
the
cut.
A Cairn Terrier, much like Toto from The Wizard of Oz. He is available for adoption. He's 12 years old. So he's great. He should probably live to be 17. So there's still some time left for this guy. So it would help if you were able to at least make contact with the shelter if you're planning to leave your pet with the shelter, so we know that you're planning, and then we can ask you to leave us some funds to help care for the animal.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And hey, a pet this age, perfect for an older person,
Right.
who has the energy and time but can't make that years and years and years worth of commitment.
Right.
He still needs a happy life.
Right.
This guy has plenty of energy too.
Right. And we thank you for joining us on Sholo TV for Pet Allies Adoption Minute, and we'll see you at the shelter.
If you would like more information about the shelter, its monthly events, or to schedule an adoption outside of regular hours, please visit www.PetAlliesAz.org or call the shelter at 928-537-8009.